Hello everyone, my name is Morgan Carden, and today we will be discussing the inequality towards the distribution of income and wealth, as well as other parties and associates or associations whom are involved. Furthermore, Bernie Sanders once claimed, "A nation will not survive morally or economically when so few have so much while so many have so little." It has been proven continuously that the imbalance between the rich and the poor is the oldest and most fatal alignment of all republics. Both the distribution of wealth and income has negatively affected millions of Americans. However, before we jump into this very complex matter, I want everyone to be open to the proceeding, as well as allowing our perspective to shine through. Each person has their own thinking process as well as state of mind, and I hope not to offend either. Leaving on that note, let's now dive into the matter at hand. For the last 3 decades, nothing has fundamentally changed in terms of inequality, which has, if anything, unfortunately worsened. Furthermore, it's not the people whom are rich, but those that abuse their wealth by lobbying for bailouts, subsidies, and taxes that are going to entrench their wealth. Sadly, the taxation system has tilted more towards the wealthy. But what would you assume to happen when you give the rich and business people tax breaks on the name of creation, when all that really happens in reality is the fat becomes fat and the cat becomes fatter? The advocates of corporate tax cuts, which makes the U.S. corporations face much higher tax rates than those of our peer countries. However, according to the article generated by the Economic Policy Institute, they claim that this differential hurts U.S. competitiveness, a word rarely defined, and discourages companies from investing within the U.S. Furthermore, according to the film produced by Robert Rich, Trump and Republicans are trying to sell you the idea that American corporations need a tax cut in order to be competitive. If corporate taxes were to be cut, it would deprive the federal government of revenue and fail to boost the income for a vast majority of Americans. The 3 influences are employment generation, productivity growth, and a more progressive distribution of income to boost the living standards of Americans. Surprisingly, corporate income taxes have been taking up less and less of the overall tax burden over the past generation. However, corporate rate cuts have managed to confuse this with a number of arguments that are wrong, misleading, or irrelevant. And once more, according to the article produced, the Economic Policy Institute claims the idea that corporate rate cuts are a good strategy for boosting the income of low and middle income families is misguided, if not outright deceptive. Whereas the real problem is the stagnant wages of most Americans and declining public investments in schools, roads, public transportation, and basic research. All the things an average working American needs in order to become more productive and get higher paid wages. To finance, we need higher corporate taxes, not lower. However, the wealthy should pay the same tax rates as the middle class would. If the wealthy aren't paying their fair share, and the middle class is stagnant and aren't paying much in taxes, then you're going to have a budget crisis somewhere along the way. According to Robert Rich, of all the developed nations today, the United States has the most unequal distribution of income and wealth by far. Furthermore, 2 researchers, Emmanuel Ciaz and Thomas Piketty, found a different source of data, which was the IRS's tax data not just over the past few years, but dating back all the way to 1913, when the income tax was just established. Both 1928 and 2007 became the peak years for income concentration, both in which the top 1% is taking home more than 23% of the total income. Emmanuel Ciaz once stated, "We knew that inequality had started to increase in the late 70s and the 1800s, but we didn't know how dramatically income concentration had increased, especially within the top 1%. However, when the study came out in 2003, it sat for a great number of years until the study suddenly became important." The parallels of both 1928 and 2007 are breathtaking, as well as viewed as a suspension bridge. Leading up to the 2 peak years, income got more and more concentrated within fewer hands, but as the wealthy turned toward our financial sector, and in both periods, the financial sector blossomed, which eventually led towards a speculative bubble. Again, in both time periods, income was stagnating, going deeper and deeper into debt in order to maintain the American people's living standards, which likely creates a debt bubble. According to Robert Rich, what makes an economy stable is a strong middle class. The middle class keeps the environment going, and as income inequality rises, upward mobility is coming less compared to before. Robert Rich has claimed that in the United States, 42% of kids born into poverty will not get out. After the Great Depression had occurred, we had a consistent 40-year period of economic growth. However, when President Reagan was elected for office, his administration was supported by both economics and lobbyists to start a 30-year period of financial deregulation. And according to the film Inside Jobs, in 1982, Reagan deregulated saving and loan companies or institutions, allowing them to make riskier investments. Both saving and loan companies has failed by the end of the decade, resulting in a crisis towards taxpayers paying $124 billion in danger control, costing many individuals their savings. Furthermore, Clinton's administration increased its development and influence. Although it was illegal to merge both city corporations and travelers due to the Glass-Steagall Act of 1933, they did it anyway and had the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act passed to overturn the Glass-Steagall Act for future mergers. Since the deregulations had begun, the finance sector had been caught in a great amount of laundering, fraud, and cooking the books. But it quickly took a turn for the worse when Bush was appointed in the Oval Office. He not only sent up the securitization food chain, but he also made it easily accessible to require a loan without a return to the lender, which is dangerous in itself. While the old system maintained and kept track of the mortgage payments, the new system completely annihilated our economy. With the new system, our money for our mortgages was not being paid due to lenders not paying the banks, and instead immediately investing our money. This was an overall ticking time bomb. However, corporations did not care how this was affecting our economy due to making such large profits. Again, according to the film Inside Jobs, investment banks actually preferred subprime loans because they carried higher interest rates, which is outrageous due to them being known as predatory loans. As the global scheme continues, Wall Street is becoming exceedingly rich. However, even though they had been warned on numerous occasions on the epidemic which could happen, Alan Greenspan still refused to change his ideology. Whereas the corporations of Wall Street continued to irresponsibly spend their money, seeing it more as a contest of who can outdo the other. Also, spending larger amounts on prostitution and drugs, cocaine in particular. On October 28, 2008, Bush had to sign a bailout due to the global finance system officially being put into jeopardy. Not only did the money inflow run out, but we continued to allow money borrowing to occur when we currently had no money to repay or fund these organizations. The economics are intertwined, resulting in a worldwide collapse, which estimated in 9 million to lose their homes, reaching in 6 million foreclosures, a multitude of individuals losing their life savings, and unemployment reaching an all-time high in 17 years. And isn't it just ironic how the ones who created this crisis walked away untouched and with their fortunes intact? Although it is repeatedly said that politics do not have a say in the finance matter, that's utter BS, due to them having a massive influence on our money influx. The financial industry turned their back on society, corrupted our political system, and plunged our economy into a crisis. The lack of regulation and greed is what led us into the recession in 2008. If we did not have such a gap between our middle class and the wealthy, we would be better well balanced as a united front, with an equal say from both classes. Our passion should lie within helping and caring for the people and their needs, instead of focusing on the said desires of the corporations. We should also have more people who we know will not corrupt or cheat the system placed into the finance sector to correctly regulate what is going on. What took me by surprise the most was the lack of care from the corporations that had ruined so many individuals' lives. These people put their trust into their lenders to do the right thing. Instead, they screwed them over repeatedly by wrongfully investing their money to their own benefit. A person was appalled by both big corporations and the finance system. They caused a great crosstalk and refused to admit their evidential acts of criminality. And when they were forced to make a formal apology, no action was taken for justice to be sought properly. The people were in scrambles when the crisis occurred, but the wealthy were unaffected, and the people responsible were continuously given higher positions, not being taken into account of their unjustified actions. In conclusion, Brandeis Lewis once stated, "We have a democracy in this country, or we can have great wealth concentrated in the hands of few, but we can't have both." And I personally believe this is where the argument is focused upon. The people of America feel as their voices are being drowned out by the influence of corporations because whereas people never have the opportunity to participate, the elite do. Furthermore, democracy is a verb, demos meaning people and krachi meaning rule. So according to Attic Greek, democracy translates into the literal meaning of the people rule. Although the corporate has an astronomical impact on our everyday lives, it doesn't give them the right to subject us to their ideals. We as the people also have the right to speak our minds and share our opinions, especially to unite the country as one. The reconstruction of democracy started in 1819 when Dartmouth College v. Woodward was passed, which in the Supreme Court gave ruling towards corporations as standing within the Constitution. And the corporation continued on for the past 200 years, bringing a multitude of new constitutions to life, benefiting the corporations and tightening their authority over people in America in itself. However, the American people refused to agree to their declaration of money as the same as speech. We are currently in a crisis among our democracy, and security is not going to be ensured until we, as a people, become united as one. Although the system is currently off balance, we need to act as well as understand the concepts which come with a gradual change within the democracy of America. Although process change can feel close to impossible, did all organizations feel that same hopeless feeling in the beginning, but with time they had flourished, opened the minds of others, and ensured their voices were heard. However, to not only prosper as a whole, but the middle class as well should follow the virtuous cycle. This includes several crucial aspects which incorporate the growth of productivity, increase in wages, workers buy more, companies hire more, increase in tax revenues, more investments from the government, and better educated workers. If we were to follow these pivotal fundamentals, we would strive better as a whole. The middle class is the heart of our society, and over the past 200 years has embraced struggle. According to Robert Rich, the percentage of households with annual incomes of 50% of the median household, with the median income being $50,000, with 50% being below, which is $25,000, and 50% above being $75,000. Thank you for listening today, and I hope you picked up on something or learned something new. And then this is my works cited here. Thank you so much, and have a nice day.